Imagine it's August 1969, just 1 month after Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. The world is space mad, and yet a British sci-fi film about discovering a mirror Earth crashes and burns at the box office, running for less than a week in major cinema chains. When Journey to the Far Side of the Sun dropped in August 1969, it should have captured the cultural moment perfectly.
Good morning.
The Apollo 11 mission had the entire world captivated by space exploration, making it seem like the perfect time for ambitious science fiction cinema. This wasn't just another low-budget B-movie either. It came from Jerry and Sylvia Anderson, the masterminds behind Thunderbirds and other beloved puppet shows, marking their ambitious leap into live-action filmmaking.
You continue to claim that you completed your mission?
We reached the new planet, yes.
The premise was genuinely intriguing. Astronauts discover a hidden planet on the opposite side of the sun that turns out to be a perfect mirror image of Earth. With solid special effects work from Derek Meddings and a cast including Roy Thinnis and Ian Hendry,
Countdown for second stage, 10 seconds.
everything seemed aligned for success. Yet the film performed poorly at the box office during its initial run, becoming a commercial failure that would haunt the Andersons' transition to live-action cinema. So what went wrong? How did a film with such potential crash and burn so spectacularly? Journey to the Far Side of the Sun failed not because it lacked technical ambition, but because it suffered from 3 critical problems that doomed it from the start: catastrophic timing, narrative weakness, and living in the shadow of a masterpiece. The timing couldn't have been worse. Archer and Nichols suggest as possible causes of the film's box office failure: its quirky, offbeat nature, and waning public interest in space exploration after Apollo 11. Think about it. Audiences had just watched real astronauts land on the actual moon, broadcast live on television. Suddenly, fictional space travel felt mundane by comparison. A contemporary review in the Milwaukee Journal captured this perfectly, noting similarities with Apollo 11. The spacemen find a few bugs in their LM and crash on the planet. Neil, Buzz, and Mike did it better on TV. Reality had literally outpaced science fiction, but timing alone didn't kill the film. The story itself was fundamentally flawed. While the special effects and production design have been praised, with Derek Meddings' effects still looking amazing despite working on a far smaller budget, the narrative crumbled under scrutiny. The film quickly devolves into the vaguest half-hearted attempt at introspection, and the plot adoption is very, very thin and just straight out disappointing. Critics and audiences found themselves watching mundane and completely irrelevant scenes, dragged out to the point where concentration and interest vanishes completely. The pacing was glacial, mistaking slow burn atmosphere for meaningful depth. Perhaps most damaging was the film's desperate attempt to copy Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey, which had premiered just months earlier. Various plot devices and imagery have been viewed as pastiches of other science fiction films, such as 2001, A Space Odyssey. It is very obvious that the film tries to mimic the tranquil space, tech scenes of 2001 that came out just months before it, but it completely misses the point of how and why those scenes are used. Where Kubrick's long contemplative sequences served a philosophical purpose, Journey's slow moments felt empty and pretentious. 2001, A Space Odyssey and Planet of the Apes, both released the year before, set a high standard for Journey to the Far Side of the Sun that it simply couldn't match. The Andersons had created a film that looked like serious science fiction, but lacked the intellectual depth to justify its deliberate pacing. The result was a movie that felt like a pale imitation of better films, arriving at exactly the wrong cultural moment when audiences wanted either the real thing or something genuinely innovative. Behind the polished veneer of Journey to the Far Side of the Sun lay a production plagued by on-set disasters, substance abuse, and professional conflicts that would have made for a more entertaining story than the film itself. The cast was struggling with serious personal issues that directly impacted their performances. Roy Thinnes was playing a heavy smoker, so he lit up a huge number of cigarettes for real. It damaged his health, so he demanded a non-smoking clause in his next film contract. Meanwhile, his co-stars were dealing with alcohol problems that created chaos on set. Ian Hendry was always drinking and performed some scenes drunk, and Patrick Wymark was also pissed throughout, requiring take after take. The situation became so problematic that director Robert Parrish decided to shoot their more difficult scenes in the morning before they got too blotto. Imagine trying to create convincing dramatic tension when your lead actors are intoxicated and your director is essentially racing against the clock before the cast becomes too drunk to work. It's quite obvious that Hendry is pissed in certainly two scenes, which speaks to just how bad things got. The production troubles extended beyond substance abuse. There was much arguing on set, including Parrish refusing to film scenes from the script he deemed to be non-essential, and cinematographer John Reed not wanting to reshoot shots of the spacecraft so it was moving in a straight line. Reed resigned. When your cinematographer quits mid-production over creative differences, you know the project is in serious trouble. But perhaps the most damaging factor was the complete lack of bankable stars. Despite boasting an intriguing and timely premise, the lack of international star power, vital for the all-important US market, likely sealed Journey's fate at the box office. Roy Thinnes and Ian Hendry were competent actors, but they weren't names that could draw audiences to theaters, especially in the crucial American market. The casting choices reflected the Andersons' television background, where character actors could carry stories through multiple episodes. In feature films, however, audiences expected recognizable faces who could anchor a 2-hour narrative. Lynn Loring, cast as Thynia's wife, brought little screen presence to what was already an underwritten role. Patrick Wymark, while a solid character actor, lacked the gravitas needed for the film's authority figure. The ensemble felt more like a television cast stretched beyond their comfort zone, rather than movie stars commanding the big screen. Adding to the casting woes was the film's awkward approach to international appeal. In trying to create a European-American co-production, the script forced together characters from different nationalities without giving them meaningful cultural distinctions or compelling reasons to work together. The result was a bland international flavor that satisfied no particular audience demographic. The distribution problems only made things worse. The completed film failed to impress either Universal or UK distributor, the Rank organization. Rank delayed the film's release by over a year. After filming completed, the movie was held up for a year by an unenthusiastic Universal. When your own distributors are reluctant to release your film, that's never a good sign. These production challenges created a perfect storm. A troubled shoot resulted in compromised performances, while the lack of star power and distributor confidence doomed any chance of commercial success. The critical and audience response to Journey to the Far Side of the Sun revealed a harsh truth. Technical competence couldn't mask fundamental storytelling failures. The film has received mixed reviews from critics, but mixed is being generous when you dig into what reviewers actually said. Some commentators have judged the parallel Earth premise to be cliched and uninspired, which was particularly damning for a film that positioned this concept as its central hook. The very idea that should have excited audiences was dismissed as tired and unoriginal. Critics weren't just lukewarm. They were actively disappointed by what they saw as a waste of potential. The pacing became a particular target for criticism. Mundane and completely irrelevant scenes are dragged out to the point where concentration and interest vanishes completely. Audiences expecting the excitement promised by the space exploration premise, instead, found themselves sitting through endless sequences that added nothing to the story. Halfway through the film, I was very close to switching it off or go watch something else due to boredom, one reviewer admitted, capturing what many viewers likely felt. The film's structure was fundamentally broken. The first 2/3 are well done before the final act kicks into gear with all its hokiness. This created a particularly frustrating viewing experience. just when audiences might have been getting invested. The film collapsed into what critics saw as cheap theatrics and contrived plot developments. This movie started so well only to end so poorly. By the end of the film, everything falls apart, leaving me feeling cheated. That sense of betrayal runs through many contemporary reviews. Viewers felt the film had wasted their time and goodwill with a promising setup that led nowhere satisfying. Even decades later, with the benefit of historical perspective, critics remained harsh. I've often read that this is a lost classic, an understated masterpiece. But I'm having difficult seeing any real merit in the film, when film scholars and genre enthusiasts actively pushing back against attempts to rehabilitate the movie, you know the problems run deep. Critics also struggled with the film's identity crisis. Was it a hard science fiction thriller, a philosophical meditation on identity, or a space adventure? The Andersons seemed uncertain themselves, resulting in tonal inconsistencies that left audiences confused about what kind of experience they were supposed to be having. Science fiction fans wanted either rigorous scientific speculation or thrilling adventure, but got neither. Art house audiences might have appreciated deeper philosophical exploration, but the film's surface-level treatment of its mirror world concept offered little intellectual satisfaction. The gender dynamics also drew criticism, even by 1960s standards. Female characters existed primarily to worry about the male protagonists, or provide romantic motivation, offering nothing substantial to the plot or themes. In an era when science fiction was beginning to explore more complex female roles, Journey felt particularly antiquated in its treatment of women as decorative accessories to the real story. International critics were particularly harsh about the film's attempts at creating a unified European space program. Rather than feeling authentically international, the Eurosec organization came across as a British fantasy of continental cooperation, with stereotypical character traits substituting for genuine cultural understanding. The disconnect wasn't just about high expectations. It was about a fundamental misunderstanding of what science fiction audiences wanted. They came for wonder and discovery, but got pretentious tedium. They expected innovative concepts, but received pastiches of other science fiction films. Most damaging of all, they hoped for a satisfying conclusion, but were left with an ending that felt both contrived and meaningless. Legacy and what could have been. Despite its initial failure, Journey to the Far Side of the Sun has experienced something of a resurrection, though whether that's deserved remains debatable. It has since garnered a cult following, and it is only more recently that the film has enjoyed something of a critical reappraisal. This second life speaks to the film's most frustrating quality. It contains enough genuinely good elements to make you wish it had been better. The film's most lasting impact wasn't on cinema, but on television. Several members of the cast went on to appear in UFO, the Andersons' first live-action TV series, which also reused many of the film's props. In many ways, UFO became what Journey to the Far Side of the Sun should have been. It took the visual style and production values, but paired them with tighter storytelling and better pacing suited to the medium. The film's failure offers crucial lessons about the importance of timing in cinema. Had it been released before 2001: A Space Odyssey, it might have been praised as innovative rather than dismissed as derivative. Had it arrived before Apollo 11, audiences might have been more receptive to fictional space exploration. Instead, it became a cautionary tale about how even technically accomplished films can fail when they arrive at exactly the wrong cultural moment. Modern viewers can appreciate what the film attempted. The mirror world concept was genuinely clever, and the production design still holds up remarkably well. The special effects work by Derek Meddings deserves recognition, and there are individual sequences that demonstrate real cinematic skill. But appreciation isn't the same as enjoyment, and the film's fundamental narrative problems remain as glaring today as they were in 1969. Perhaps most importantly, Journey to the Far Side of the Sun demonstrates the dangers of imitating superior works without understanding what made them effective. The Andersons tried to capture Kubrick's contemplative style, but missed the philosophical depth that justified 2001's deliberate pacing. They created beautiful images without meaningful content to support them. The film also serves as a fascinating time capsule of late 1960s optimism about space exploration and international cooperation. The European Space Exploration Council depicted in the film reflects real hopes for collaborative space ventures that would emerge in the following decades. Yet this forward-thinking premise was undermined by storytelling techniques that felt antiquated even for 1969. The film's vision of the future was progressive, but its narrative approach was regressive. Today, Journey to the Far Side of the Sun exists in that peculiar category of films that are more interesting to discuss than to watch. Film students study it as an example of ambitious failure, while science fiction historians recognize its place in the evolution of British genre cinema. It spawned discussions about parallel universes and alternate realities that would become staples of later science fiction, even if it failed to explore these concepts satisfyingly itself. Journey to the Far Side of the Sun represents one of cinema's great what-ifs, a film with all the technical skill and ambitious concepts needed for success, undone by poor timing, weak execution, and the shadow of superior films that came before it. It stands as a reminder that in filmmaking, good intentions and technical competence aren't enough. Sometimes the most talented creators can produce their biggest failures when they aim for greatness, but lose sight of what made their previous work special. Do you think Journey to the Far Side of the Sun could have succeeded with better timing and tighter storytelling? Or was it doomed from the start? The film's troubled legacy suggests that some projects are cursed from conception, no matter how much talent is thrown at them.